I told him real men don't cry. He left me a note and disappeared for good. I need to tell someone what I did, and you're going to think I'm a terrible person, but there's something about watching someone you love fall apart that nobody really understands until they're in it. Everyone who's heard this story thinks Marcus is some tragic hero, and I'm the cold-hearted villain who destroyed him. And maybe they're right. But what they don't know, what I've never told anyone, is that I said those words to him on purpose. I knew exactly what I was doing when I looked him in the eyes and told him real men don't cry. I wanted to hurt him. And the reason why? That's the part that makes me sick to my stomach even now, 3 years later. If I don't tell this story the right way, you'll never understand why I'm still checking my phone every morning to see if he's texted. You'll never understand why I created a fake Instagram account just to see if he's posted anything anywhere, even though he's completely disappeared from social media. But once you know what I know, once you understand what was really happening in my head that night, you'll see why I had no choice but to push him away. Or at least, that's what I keep telling myself when I can't sleep. I'm going to tell you everything, including what I found in his apartment after he left. And the part that makes me look worst, the thing I did 3 days before that final fight, I'm saving that for later because you need to understand how we got there first. You need to understand who I was before Marcus, and who I became when I realized I was losing control of everything. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party in Brooklyn. One of those cramped apartment gatherings where everyone's crammed into a living room that's barely big enough for the furniture, let alone 30 people. I was going through what I kept calling my independent phase, which was really just code for recovering from a relationship where I lost myself completely. My ex, David, had been one of those guys who needed constant reassurance, constant attention, constant emotional labor. 3 years of that had left me feeling like a deflated balloon. I'd promised myself the next person I dated would be different, stable, put together. Someone who didn't need me to be their therapist. Marcus was laughing when I first saw him, not polite party laughter but the kind that takes over your whole body. He was talking to a group near the window, gesturing wildly with his beer, telling some story I couldn't quite hear. What struck me wasn't that he was handsome, though he was in that effortless way that some people just are, but that he seemed completely comfortable in his own skin. When he caught me staring, he didn't look away. He smiled, excused himself from his conversation, and walked straight over. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," he said. "That obvious?" Only to someone who's also counting down the minutes until it's acceptable to leave. We ended up talking for 3 hours. He was a high school English teacher, which surprised me because he didn't have that burned-out quality I associated with teachers. He talked about his students with genuine affection, told me about this kid who just discovered poetry and couldn't stop writing terrible haikus about basketball. He asked me questions about my work in marketing that suggested he was actually listening, not just waiting for his turn to talk. When he asked for my number, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: excitement without anxiety. The first few months were easy in a way I didn't know relationships could be. Marcus was consistent. He texted when he said he would. He made plans and kept them. He didn't play games or test me or need constant validation. After David's emotional roller coaster, it felt like finally stepping onto solid ground. My friends loved him. My mom loved him. My therapist, Dr. Chen, who I'd been seeing since the David breakup, seemed pleased that I'd found someone emotionally available. But here's the thing nobody tells you about dating someone stable: it can make you feel like you're the unstable one by comparison. Marcus had his life figured out in ways I didn't. He had a career he loved, a tight group of friends he'd known since college, a clear sense of who he was and what he wanted. Meanwhile, I was still trying to figure out if marketing was really my passion or just something I'd fallen into. I had friends, sure, but nobody I'd call at 3 in the morning. I had goals, but they shifted every few months depending on what influencer I was following or what podcast I'd just binged. Around month 4, I started noticing small things. The way Marcus would sometimes go quiet during dinner, staring at his plate like he was working through something in his head. How he'd occasionally cancel plans last minute, saying he needed a night in without much explanation. Nothing major, nothing that threw up red flags, but enough to make me wonder if the stability I'd fallen for was just a well-maintained facade. I didn't say anything. Part of me didn't want to rock the boat. Part of me thought I was being paranoid, seeing problems where there weren't any because I was so used to chaos. Dr. Chen had warned me about this, about how people who have been in toxic relationships sometimes become hypervigilant, interpreting normal human behavior as warning signs. Then one night, about 5 months in, Marcus showed up at my apartment without calling first. It was late, almost 11, and I'd just gotten out of the shower. When I opened the door, he looked different. His eyes were red, his hair was a mess, and he was holding a bottle of wine like a life raft. "Can I come in?" he asked. "Of course, what's wrong?" He walked past me and sat down heavily on my couch. "It's my dad. He had a heart attack this afternoon. He's okay, he's stable, but it was close." "Really close?" I sat down next to him, put my hand on his knee. Jesus, Marcus, I'm so sorry. Do you need to go see him? Where is he? Jersey, but visiting hours are over. I can go tomorrow morning. He rubbed his face with both hands. I don't know why I came here. I just didn't want to be alone. What happened next should have been straightforward. Comfort him. Let him talk or not talk, whatever he needed. Be the supportive girlfriend. And I tried. I really did. But as the night went on and we killed the bottle of wine, Marcus started talking about his relationship with his dad. How they'd been distant for years after his parents' divorce. How they'd only recently started rebuilding things. How scared he was that they'd run out of time before they really fixed it. And the more he talked, the more I felt this creeping discomfort. Not because what he was saying was bad or wrong, but because it was so raw, so vulnerable. He cried a little, wiping his eyes quickly like he was embarrassed. He kept apologizing for dumping this on me. And instead of feeling closer to him, I felt myself pulling away internally, even as I held his hand and made sympathetic noises. When he finally left around 2 in the morning, I felt exhausted, drained, like I'd just run a marathon I hadn't trained for. I texted my best friend Jenna the next day. Is it bad that I feel weird about Marcus being so emotional last night? She called me immediately. Weird how? I don't know, it was a lot. His dad almost died, obviously he's upset, but I guess I just wasn't expecting him to be so open about it. There was a pause. Liv, you do realize that's a good thing, right? That he feels comfortable being vulnerable with you. I know, you're right, I'm being stupid. You're not being stupid. You're just used to guys who either shut down completely or make everything a crisis. Marcus is showing you what healthy emotional expression looks like. I told myself she was right. I told myself this was growth, this was what I claimed to want. A partner who could actually communicate, who trusted me enough to show me the messy parts. But I couldn't shake the image of him sitting on my couch, tears in his eyes, asking me if I thought his dad would be okay. It felt like too much responsibility. Like he was handing me something fragile and expecting me to know how to hold it properly. His dad recovered. Marcus went to visit him several times over the next few weeks, and their relationship seemed to improve. He'd tell me about their conversations, how his dad was trying to be more open, how they were finally talking about things they'd avoided for years. I smiled and said all the right things and felt like a fraud the entire time. Just when I thought I was adjusting to this new, more vulnerable version of Marcus, things at his work started falling apart. There was a new principal at his school, one of those corporate types who cared more about test scores than actual education. She started implementing all these new policies that made Marcus's job harder: standardized lesson plans, mandatory testing every week, restrictions on what books he could teach. He'd come over after work and vent about it, getting more passionate and angry than I'd ever seen him. She told me I can't teach The Catcher in the Rye anymore, he said one night, packing my living room. Too controversial, too much cursing. Never mind that these kids curse like sailors in the hallways. Never mind that it's one of the few books that actually gets them excited about reading. That's insane, I said, and it was. But I also found myself checking my phone while he talked, scrolling through Instagram, only half listening. Not because I didn't care, but because I felt this growing resentment that I couldn't name. Why was he always upset about something? Why did he need to process everything verbally? Why couldn't he just handle things internally like I did? I thought I was hiding it well, but Marcus noticed. You seem distracted, he said, stopping mid-sentence. No, I'm listening. The new principal sounds like a nightmare. Liv, you've been on your phone for the last 10 minutes. I put my phone down, defensive. I'm sorry, work stuff, you know how it is. He sat down next to me. Is everything okay? You've seemed off lately. And there it was, the perfect opportunity to be honest, to tell him what I was struggling with, to have the kind of vulnerable conversation he seemed so comfortable with. Instead, I smiled and lied. I'm fine, just stressed. Big presentation coming up. He looked like he didn't quite believe me, but he let it go. He kissed my forehead and changed the subject, and I felt relieved and guilty in equal measure. Things came to a head 3 months later. Marcus had been increasingly stressed about work. The principal had put him on an improvement plan for deviation from approved curriculum, which was basically code for teaching in a way that actually engaged his students. He'd started having trouble sleeping. He'd lost weight. The easy laugh that had first attracted me to him became rare. One Saturday morning he called me crying, actually sobbing, barely coherent. My first thought, I'm ashamed to admit, wasn't concern, it was annoyance. I was at brunch with Jenna and 2 other friends, mimosas on the table, finally having a relaxing morning after a brutal week at work. Marcus, I stepped away from the table into the restaurant's entryway. What's wrong? They fired me, he managed. Just called me this morning. Said they're eliminating my position due to budget cuts, but that's bullshit. It's because I pushed back on the new curriculum. They're keeping teachers with less experience, less effectiveness, but they're getting rid of me because I wouldn't fall in line. Oh my God, Marcus, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do. His voice cracked. Teaching is all I know, it's all I've ever wanted to do. What if I can't find another position? What if? Hey, you're spiraling, take a breath. I could see Jenna watching me through the window, concerned. You're an incredible teacher. Any school would be lucky to have you. This is their loss. Can you come over? I know you're at brunch, but I really need. I can't right now, I said, the words out of my mouth before I'd really thought about them. I'm in the middle of something, but I can come by this evening. Silence on the other end, then quietly, yeah, okay, tonight's fine. When I got back to the table, Jenna immediately asked, is Marcus okay? He got fired. He's pretty upset about it. Jesus, Liv, don't you need to go be with him? I sipped my mimosa. I'm seeing him tonight. He'll be fine. The look Jenna gave me made something twist in my stomach, like she was seeing something in me I didn't want to acknowledge. When I showed up at Marcus's apartment that evening, he'd clearly spent the day in a dark place. The blinds were drawn, there were beer bottles on the coffee table, and he was still in the clothes he'd slept in. He looked at me when I came in and I could see the hurt underneath the depression. Thanks for coming, he said flatly. Of course. I sat down next to him on the couch, put my hand on his back. He felt tense, rigid. Have you eaten anything today? Not hungry. Marcus, you need to eat. Let me order something. I don't want food, Liv. I want... He stopped himself, shook his head. Never mind. What? Tell me. He turned to look at me and there was something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. Not sadness, but something harder. I wanted you to be there this morning when I called. I needed you and you chose brunch. The accusation hung in the air between us. I felt my defenses slam into place. That's not fair. You called out of nowhere. I was already committed to plans. I came as soon as I could. As soon as you could. It's been 8 hours, Liv. So what? I'm supposed to drop everything the second you have a crisis? I have a life too, Marcus. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not asking you to drop everything. I'm asking you to. He rubbed his face with both hands. God, forget it. You're right. I'm being unreasonable. But I couldn't let it go. I was too angry, too defensive, too aware on some level that he was right and I was wrong. You know what? Maybe you are being unreasonable. This whole thing, the crying, the constant stress, the needing me all the time, it's a lot, Marcus. He stared at me. Needing you all the time? Liv, I barely ask anything of you. I deal with most of my stuff on my own. Today was the first time I've ever really needed you and you couldn't even show up for a few hours. That's not true. You're always upset about something. Your dad, your job, whatever. And I'm always the one who has to deal with it, who has to make you feel better. That's what people in relationships do, he said, his voice rising. They support each other. They're there for each other when shit gets hard. I've been there for you when you were stressed about that campaign launch, when you had that fight with your mom, when those were different. How were they different? I didn't have an answer. Or rather, I had an answer I couldn't say out loud because I didn't fall apart the way you do. Because I handled things without making them everyone else's problem. We sat in silence for a long moment. Then Marcus spoke quietly. Do you even want to be in this relationship? What kind of question is that? A fair one, I think, because from where I'm sitting it seems like every time I show you who I really am, you pull away. Every time I need something from you emotionally, you act like I'm asking too much. That's not true, isn't it? He leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. I thought you were different, Liv. I thought after David, you'd want someone who could actually communicate, who wasn't afraid to be real with you. But I'm starting to think you just want someone who needs nothing from you at all. His words hit too close to something I'd been trying not to examine. I stood up, grabbing my purse. I should go. You're upset and we're just going to keep fighting. Yeah, he said, not looking at me. You should go. I left and spent the entire drive home justifying my position to myself. I wasn't wrong. He was being too needy. It wasn't healthy for him to rely on me so much for emotional support. He needed to be more self-sufficient. These were all reasonable things to think, right? I called Jenna when I got home. He's making me feel like a villain for having boundaries, I told her. Liv, what boundaries? Being there for your partner when they lose their job isn't crossing a boundary. It's basic relationship stuff. You don't get it. He's always like this. Always emotional, always needing to process everything out loud. That's not what you told me before. You said he was stable, that he had his shit together. Well, I was wrong. Jenna was quiet for a moment. Then do you think maybe this isn't about Marcus? Do you think maybe this is about you not knowing how to be there for someone when they're struggling because you never learned how? I hung up on her. Actually pressed the end button while she was talking, like a child throwing a tantrum. I didn't talk to Marcus for 3 days. He texted once, a simple "can we talk?" that I left on read. I told myself I was giving us both space. Really, I was avoiding the conversation I knew we needed to have because I didn't know how to have it without admitting things about myself I didn't want to admit. On day 3, Dr. Chen's office called to confirm my appointment. I'd forgotten about it completely. When I showed up, she took one look at me and said, "What's going on?" I told her everything. The fight, Marcus's neediness, my frustration. I presented it as objectively as I could, expecting her to validate my feelings, to confirm that yes, Marcus was asking too much. Instead, she asked, "What are you afraid of?" I'm not afraid of anything. I'm just tired of being his emotional support system. Liv, in the 2 years I've been seeing you, we've talked extensively about your childhood. About growing up with a father who shut down emotionally after your mother left, who taught you that feelings were inconvenient, that struggling meant weakness. About how you learned to handle everything yourself because asking for help meant being a burden. I know all that, but this is different. Is it? Because it sounds to me like Marcus is showing you the kind of vulnerability you've never allowed yourself, and it's terrifying you. I felt tears prick my eyes, which made me angry. So what, I'm supposed to just let him fall apart all the time? I'm supposed to be okay with constant crisis? Has it been constant crisis? Or has he had a few genuinely difficult things happen, his father's heart attack, losing his job, and struggled with them in normal, healthy ways? I didn't want to answer that. Because the truth was, Marcus hadn't been in constant crisis. He'd had a couple of major life events that would shake anyone, and he'd leaned on me in completely reasonable ways. The problem wasn't that he was too needy. The problem was that any need at all felt like too much to me. What if I can't be what he needs? I said quietly. What if you can and you're just too scared to try? I left that session feeling raw and exposed. Dr. Chen had given me homework: reach out to Marcus, apologize, actually show up for him, be the partner he deserved, or be honest enough to let him go. I did neither. Instead, I did something I'm still ashamed of. I went out with my coworker Brad, who'd been flirting with me for months. Just drinks, I told myself, just friendly drinks to blow off steam. Nothing was going to happen. We went to a bar in Manhattan, one of those trendy places with exposed brick and craft cocktails. Brad was charming, funny, and most importantly, he didn't need anything from me emotionally. We talked about work gossip, surface-level stuff, nothing deep or challenging. When he put his hand on my knee under the table, I didn't move it away. Nothing happened beyond that. I went home alone. But the intention had been there. The willingness to cross a line, to blow up something good because it felt easier than doing the hard work of being vulnerable. I felt sick about it the next morning. Texted Brad saying that was inappropriate, that I had a boyfriend, that it couldn't happen again. He responded with a shrugging emoji and worth a shot. That same morning, Marcus texted, I miss you. Can we please talk? I stared at that message for a long time. I could tell him what I'd almost done. I could apologize for not being there when he needed me. I could be honest about my fears and my limitations, and maybe, just maybe, we could work through this together, or I could push him away completely. Make him believe I wasn't worth missing. End things on my terms before he figured out just how broken I really was. I'm not proud of what I did next. I went to his apartment that evening. He looked hopeful when he opened the door, like maybe we were going to fix things. He'd cleaned up, the beer bottles were gone, the blinds were open, he was dressed like a human being again. Hey, he said softly, I'm glad you came. We need to talk, I said, not moving from the doorway. His face fell slightly. Okay, come in. I walked in but didn't sit down, kept my purse on my shoulder, my jacket on. Body language that said I wasn't staying. I've been thinking about what you said, I started. About whether I want to be in this relationship. Liv, let me finish. You were right. Every time you need something from me, I pull away. Every time you show me the messy parts, I get uncomfortable, and I don't think that's going to change. He was staring at me like I'd slapped him. So what are you saying? I'm saying maybe we're not compatible. Maybe you need someone who can handle your emotions better than I can. Handle my emotions? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Jesus, Liv, I'm not some broken thing that needs to be handled. I'm a person who has feelings, who goes through hard shit sometimes and wants support from the person I love. The word love hung in the air. We'd never said it to each other. Almost a year together, and we'd never crossed that line. I think you should find someone who can give you what you need, I said, my voice flat. Because I can't be that person. Can't or won't. Does it matter? He rubbed his eyes with the heels of his hands, and I realized he was trying not to cry, trying to hold it together in front of me because he knew that breaking down would just prove my point in my twisted logic. I don't understand, he said finally. A week ago, we were fine, we were happy. Now you're ending it because I had the audacity to be human in front of you. It's not about one thing, it's a pattern, and I don't see it changing. Have you even tried? Have you done any work on yourself to figure out why this is so hard for you? I've been in therapy for 2 years, Marcus. Then maybe you need a different therapist. Because the Liv I fell for, the Liv I thought I knew, she wouldn't do this. She wouldn't throw away something good because it got difficult for 5 fucking minutes. His voice was rising, cracking at the edges. His eyes were red. And instead of feeling compassion, instead of softening, I felt angry. Angry that he was making this harder than it needed to be. Angry that he couldn't just let me go cleanly. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about, I said coldly. You're falling apart right now. You're about to cry over a relationship that clearly wasn't working. It was working, Liv. It was working until you decided it wasn't. Real men don't cry, Marcus. I don't know why I said it, or maybe I do. Maybe I said it specifically to hurt him, to push him so far away that he'd stop fighting for us. Maybe I said it because my dad used to say it to me when I cried as a kid, and it was the most cutting thing I could think of in the moment. Maybe I said it because if I could make him angry enough, I wouldn't have to sit with my own guilt. The effect was immediate. He stopped mid-breath, stared at me like I'd become someone he didn't recognize. What did you just say? You heard me. I was committed now, doubling down on the cruelty. I need someone stronger, someone who doesn't fall apart every time life gets hard. He wiped his eyes roughly and I could see him trying to compose himself, trying to prove me wrong maybe, or trying to maintain some dignity in the face of what I was doing to him. Get out, he said quietly. Marcus, get the fuck out of my apartment, Liv. I left. Walked down 4 flights of stairs because I couldn't wait for the elevator, got in my car and drove home. I didn't cry. Didn't let myself feel anything except a grim sense of satisfaction that it was done. It was over, I didn't have to worry about being enough for someone anymore. That night I posted an Instagram story of myself at a wine bar with some acquaintances, smiling caption, living my best life. Within an hour, Jenna had texted, did you and Marcus break up? I didn't respond. The next morning there was an envelope under my apartment door. My name on the front in Marcus's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter. 2 pages front and back, his teacher handwriting neat and measured despite what must have been written through tears based on the occasional smudge. Liv, it started. I'm writing this because I don't trust myself to say it to your face without breaking down, and I know now that my emotions make you uncomfortable. I'm writing this because you deserve to know what you've done, even if you don't care. What you said to me last night about real men not crying came from the same place my father used to hurt me from. That emotional unavailability you claim to hate in your ex, you've perfected it in yourself. You asked me for stability, for consistency, for someone who had their shit together. I gave you all of that. But the moment I showed you that I'm human, that I struggle, that I feel things deeply, you decided I was weak. You're right about one thing, we're not compatible. Not because I'm too emotional, but because you're terrified of emotion entirely. You want a relationship that costs you nothing, that demands nothing, that exists purely on the surface where everything is Instagram-worthy, and nobody has to do the messy work of actually showing up. I loved you. I didn't get the chance to say it to your face, so I'm saying it here in writing where you can't interrupt or deflect. I loved you fully, flaws and all, and I thought you were learning to love me the same way. I was wrong. I hope someday you figure out that strength isn't the absence of emotion. Strength is feeling everything and choosing to be vulnerable anyway. Strength is asking for help when you need it, crying when you hurt, and trusting someone else to hold space for that pain. The weakest thing I ever did was believing you were capable of that kind of strength. I'm leaving the city. I got a job offer in Portland, a good school, a fresh start. I'm taking it. By the time you read this, I'll already be on a flight. I'm not leaving because of you, though I'd be lying if I said you weren't part of the reason I'm ready to go. I'm leaving because staying here in this apartment where I lost both my job and the person I thought I'd build a life with is too much. Don't try to contact me. Don't show up at my apartment, I've already moved out. Don't text or call or do that thing you do where you make yourself the victim in the story. Just let me go. You clearly found it easy enough to push me away. Do me the courtesy of keeping me there. You broke my heart, Liv, and the worst part is I don't think you even care. Marcus, I read that letter 5 times in a row, standing in my kitchen, still in my pajamas. Then I threw up. Actually bent over my sink and vomited until there was nothing left. He was gone. Really, truly gone. Not just out of my life, but out of the entire city, out of reach, unreachable. I tried calling anyway, straight to voicemail, mailbox full. Texted. The messages showed delivered but never read. Went to his apartment, a different name was already on the buzzer list. I checked his social media obsessively. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of it gone. Not deactivated, not private. Deleted entirely. It was like he'd erased himself from the digital world. He's really gone, I told Jenna when I finally called her 3 days after reading the letter. Good, she said bluntly. He deserves better than what you gave him. Thanks for the support. You want support? Go back in time and actually be there for him when he needed you. You want me to tell you it's going to be okay? It's not. You fucked up, Liv. You took someone who loved you and you destroyed him because you're too scared to be vulnerable. I know that, I whispered. I know, okay? Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you still haven't taken any real responsibility for what you did. You're sad because he's gone, not because of how you made him feel. She was right. She was absolutely right, and I hated her for it. I spent the next few weeks in a haze. Went to work, came home, stared at his letter until the words blurred. Dr. Chen tried to help me process it, but I couldn't articulate what I was feeling. Regret, yes. Guilt, absolutely. But underneath, that was something worse, the creeping realization that I'd done to Marcus exactly what my father had done to me. Taught him that his feelings were inconvenient. That emotional expression was weakness. That to be loved, he needed to be less human. Just when I thought I'd hit rock bottom, I got an email. From Marcus's school email address, which apparently was still active since it was through the New York public school system, not his specific school. The subject line was empty. The body of the email was a single forwarded message dated 2 weeks before our fight, before he got fired, before everything fell apart. It was an email Marcus had sent to his old college roommate Jake. I recognized the name from stories Marcus had told me. Man, I think I'm going to ask Liv to move in with me. I know it's only been a year, but it feels right, you know? She's it for me. I've never been this sure about anyone. I'm thinking I'll ask her next month after the semester ends and things settle down. I've been looking at bigger apartments in Queens, places with actual bedrooms and maybe a little outdoor space. I want to build a life with her. I want everything. I'm not naive. I know it won't always be easy, but she's worth it. She's worth every hard conversation, every compromise, every moment of uncertainty. I've never met anyone who makes me want to be better while also making me feel like I'm already enough exactly as I am. Anyway, just wanted to tell someone. Feels too big to keep to myself. Below the forwarded email, Marcus had written only thought you should know what you destroyed. I sat there, staring at my laptop screen, reading those words over and over. He'd been planning a future with me. He'd been sure, and I'd taken that certainty, that love, that willingness to be vulnerable about what he wanted, and I'd crushed it because I was too broken to accept it. The email had been sent from Portland. He was there, building a new life, probably finding someone who actually deserved him, someone who could handle love without panicking, who could be present when things got hard. I started drafting a response. Deleted it, started again, deleted again. What could I possibly say that would matter? Sorry didn't cover it, explanation didn't excuse it, and he'd been clear, don't contact me. But I tried anyway. One email, Marcus, I'm so sorry. You deserve so much better than what I gave you. I was scared and I hurt you because of my own brokenness. I don't expect you to forgive me or respond. I just needed you to know that I know what I did and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. The email bounced back. Address no longer active. That's when I created the fake Instagram account. I know how pathetic that sounds, but I needed to know he was okay. Needed to see proof that he'd survived what I'd done to him. I never found him. He disappeared completely like he said he would. No digital footprint, no mutual friends posting about him, nothing. I threw myself into therapy, started going twice a week. Dr. Chen and I dug into everything, my childhood, my fear of vulnerability, my pattern of pushing people away the moment they got too close. It was brutal, painful work. There were sessions where I cried so hard I thought I might be sick. Sessions where Dr. Chen had to remind me that understanding why I did something didn't erase the harm I'd caused. You hurt someone who loved you, she said during one particularly difficult session. That's a fact you have to live with. The question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? Are you going to let it destroy you, or are you going to let it change you? I chose change, or I'm trying to anyway. I'm learning to sit with uncomfortable emotions instead of running from them. Learning that needing people isn't weakness. Learning that love requires showing up even when, especially when it's hard. But 3 years later, I still think about Marcus almost every day. I wonder if he's happy. If he's found someone who doesn't flinch when he cries. If he's still teaching, still making kids fall in love with poetry. I wonder if he ever thinks about me, or if he successfully erased me from his memory the way he erased himself from the internet. My friends think I'm still single because I'm focused on myself and working on personal growth. They're not entirely wrong, but the real reason is that I don't trust myself yet. Every time I start to feel something for someone, I panic. I find reasons to pull away. I'm terrified that I'm still that person who told someone their emotions made them weak, even though I'm desperately trying not to be. Jenna and I are okay now, though our friendship isn't what it was. There's a wariness in how she interacts with me, like she's waiting to see if I've really changed or if I'm just performing change. I don't blame her. Last month I was at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, the same neighborhood where Marcus and I met. I saw someone across the room who had the same build, the same dark hair, the same way of gesturing when he talked. My heart stopped. I actually stood up, ready to go over there to say, "What, I'm sorry I ruined us. I think about you every day. It wasn't him. Of course it wasn't him. He's in Portland, probably thriving, definitely better off without me." But for a moment, I let myself imagine what I'd say if it was him. How I'd tell him that he was right about everything. That strength isn't the absence of emotion, it's being brave enough to feel everything anyway. That I'm learning, slowly and painfully, how to be the kind of person who can hold space for someone else's pain without making it about my own fear. That I loved him too. I never said it, but I did. I loved him, and I destroyed that love because I didn't know how to accept it. Here's the thing nobody tells you about being the villain in someone else's story: you don't get redemption. You don't get a moment where they forgive you and everything's okay again. You just get to live with what you did, and hope that maybe, eventually, you become someone who wouldn't do it again. I still have his letter. It's in my nightstand, folded and unfolded so many times the creases are starting to tear. I read it sometimes when I'm feeling too good about myself, when I'm in danger of forgetting the harm I'm capable of causing. Sometimes I imagine him reading this wherever he is. I imagine him shaking his head, thinking I'm trying to make myself the victim again, the tragic figure who learned a valuable lesson. Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm still performing, still trying to craft a narrative where I come out looking better than I deserve to look. But the truth is simpler and uglier than any narrative I could craft. I broke someone who loved me. I told him his humanity was weakness. And when he left, he took with him the version of myself I could have become if I'd been brave enough to let him in. I don't know if I'll ever stop checking my phone in the morning, half-hopping for a message that will never come. I don't know if I'll ever stop creating fake social media accounts, searching for proof that he's okay, that he survived me. I don't know if the work I'm doing in therapy will ever be enough to make me someone capable of the kind of love he offered me. What I do know is this: Marcus was the strongest person I ever met. Not because he never cried, but because he was brave enough to cry in front of someone he loved. And I was the weakest, telling him that strength looked like invulnerability when really, I was just describing my own fear. If you're reading this, Marcus, and I know you're probably not, you're probably exactly where you said you'd be, living a life that doesn't include me. I hope you know that you were right. About all of it. About strength, about vulnerability, about love. I hope you found someone who knows how to hold those truths you tried to teach me. I hope you're happy in a way I was too broken to let you be with me. And I hope you never, ever let someone make you feel like your humanity is something to be ashamed of again. I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me because I couldn't handle being seen. That's the truth. Not a redemption story, not a tale of growth and change, just a simple, devastating fact. And I'll carry it with me forever, a reminder of who I was and who I never want to be again. The worst part? I still don't know if I've really changed or if I'm just better at recognizing my patterns. I still pull away when people get too close. I still feel that panic when someone shows me their messy, vulnerable underbelly. The difference now is that I notice it happening. I can name it. Whether I can actually stop it is still an open question. Dr. Chen says healing isn't linear, that I need to give myself credit for the work I'm doing, even if the results aren't perfect. But how much credit do you get for recognizing you're the villain? How much growth is required before you stop being the person who destroys good things because you're scared? I don't have those answers. All I have is this story, this confession of the worst thing I've ever done to another person. I'm telling it now because I need someone to know.